They call him a teacher to me for a reason. Jesus is still very much a teacher and a counselor. So I was at home receiving counseling, self-correction, aha moments, epiphanies. I call them little holy doodads. And this happened for years. And so I just turned the camera around and started telling my intimates. So usually what we hide in the dresser drawer of life, we don't want people seeing them. There are intimates, our dirty laundry, or our lacy items, our see-through things. And I started letting other people see my intimates.
Welcome to Conversation for the Soul. I'm Linda Christine. Today I talk with Lanie Quinlan, and Lanie is a preacher. Interesting, huh? She's not your regular run-of-the-mill preacher, though. She has a church called the Front Porch, and she refers to herself as the red dirt preacher because this gal hails from Georgia, where they got the red dirt. And I just had to have her on the show because I so admire her passion and her conviction for preaching. And the unique thing about what Lanie does is she really creates a bridge between the Bible and spirituality. She runs on 100% Jesus. And she is burning sage and talking about Christ consciousness. So I just thought, wow, what an interesting soul. I really want to talk to her a little bit more. So I think you're really going to enjoy today's show. And I'd love to hear what you think. Please like, share, and subscribe because this is the only way we get the word out about the Conversations for the Soul. And want to hear what you think. So leave a comment below after you take a listen to the Red Dirt Preacher. Here we go. All right, I am here today with Lanie Quinlan. Welcome, Lanie.
Hello, how are you?
I am good. You know, I am pleased to have you here, my dear. I found this gal. Let's see, probably a year ago. I've been stalking your red dirt preacher porch that you got going on there.
We're kicking up dirt over there. We're causing a stir.
Yeah, I love it. You know what I love about you is you are so perfect at combining the Bible, more of a traditional book, with spirituality. Right? How did this all come to be for you? Were you always a little preacher when you were a little girl, or how did this evolve for you?
I think my love for Christ has always been there. My intrigue for everybody has who they have, and I personally have Jesus. So that love's been there my entire life. And then later in my mid to late 20s, you add in a conscious, what called spiritual awakening. For some of us, those are unavoidable in our lives. So I already had Jesus, and then the consciousness happened, and the two go together inside me. It comes out Christ consciousness. And I figured out that that's actually around the world. So I let that be the way that I learned.
Beautiful.
Answer your question.
So what was your awakening? Do you mind sharing?
No, I don't. In a nutshell, pain. Now I could sit here and tell you it was, then this happened and that happened and she didn't, we all have, as pardon my French, we all have a story where we just come from shit. We're just little piles of potential shit. And most of our greatest stories, most of our greatest people that inspire us or do great art, whether it's poems or music, it's because they came from shit. It's a town, I think. And anyway, yeah. So I came from what caused it: pain, change, a disillusioned kingdom. That's in the Bible, or you could say a tower moment. Either way, we really start to change on a deep foundational level, and we rebuild ourselves. We co-create that building back up with love. So that's what I'm in the middle of doing and becoming, and in that became red dirt preacher and what I'm doing. So it was easy to take. I was being schooled by God at home. I was being corrected. They call him a teacher to me for a reason. Jesus is still very much a teacher and a counselor. So I was at home receiving counseling, self-correction, aha moments, epiphanies. I call them little holy doodads. And this happened for years. And so I just turned the camera around and started telling my intimates. So usually what we hide in the dresser drawer of life, we don't want people seeing them. There are intimates, our dirty laundry, or our lacy items, our see-through things. And I started letting other people see my intimates. And without any real shame in that, I'm not proud of it, but I'm not ashamed of it either. Here's the way that I got taught. Here's the mistakes I made, if we can call them that. And all that led up to what I talk about daily is just self-correction, what it looks like on me. And a lot of people find resonant frequency in that. They see themselves in that. They see a remnant of sin in that, or they see a hope in that. And I think that that's important, what I'm doing. Showing yourself off that way, and it's not like a braggadocious way. It's like we're supposed to be embarrassed at self-correction, but I think that if you share that stuff, that's happening all over the world, and it's not so crazy. Yeah.
Well, to me, it's that authenticity really lends itself to realism. You're not up there spouting out a bunch of phony baloney stuff that, I'm spiritual this and I'm spiritual that. It's like, no, I went through the dregs. I went through the mud. Here I am. I live to tell the story. And to me, that's a very attractive quality in somebody, because you've walked the path.
Well, walking it. Yes. I call it trench foot. We've all, it makes a long story real short, and we've all been there and done that. And when you start to, just redefining, hopefully, again, I find myself doing it by accident more than I do driven on purpose. It's changing and redefining the way that we have church. Church to me is a synergy of energy. Church to me is family. Church to me is all the time, a state of mind I'm in, a feeling I get. And so with our own mouths, we're proclaiming, that we are the church. If you put your fingers together like this in school, they taught you to open it up and find all the people. Inside the church is the people, and we the people. And oh my gosh, to me, I just look at that nationwide. Like, we are a church of people. And so really redefining what church is, redefining how we learn through Christ when it's not exactly literally Bible thumping us in the head all the time. And just doing it different, but yet getting to the same destination. I hope that makes sense as well.
No, that absolutely does make sense. It's interesting because you say church, and I think immediately of religion, and then I get this trigger, where it's like, oh.
Right.
Isn't that, what do you say to people that get that going on? How do you help them ease
I just apologize for the biblical abuse of somebody else that got there before I did. Because it does that. I mean, religion does a lot of yelling at us. Spirituality does a lot of showing us, whispering to us. In fact, spirituality through the Spirit, not really saying a word, but when you hear the Spirit, it's the loudest thing you've heard all day. It's irrefutable. Yeah. And a church, we're really done being yelled at and screamed at and told that it's got to be the whole, everybody's opinions, ways, and your grandma's.
And fear.
Fear is another one. Religion. You said you think of religion, and here's one I openly got taught through Spirit. And if you don't mind, can I touch on that a little bit?
Oh, please. Yeah, that's why we're here.
Whether it makes people uncomfortable or not, it's still the truth. And what happened in my throat chakra and in my healing, which turned me into Red Dirt Preacher. And what is that? That's a layman, a regular person who turned into a powerful teacher. A preacher to me is a powerful teacher. And And so that's what I'm doing. And it's like, how do you, I just take the nuances of the stories of life that I have, and Spirit teaches the swimming pools. Spirit uses my 3 kids to teach me things all day long. So that conscious learning is what came out loud. And from that, people started to come into that light, into that. And we call our church now the Porch, just simply because that is a sovereign place without, there's no other labels. Everyone's here. And if you go out on your porch right now, it doesn't say, there's not a bunch of rules. There's not it's just your surname. That's the only thing that's out there, really, and welcome.
And some lemonade, maybe.
Right. So you're kind of changing that. It's non-denominational to it's one foundational, and that is just love. We have to have the word religion. Can we just say love? And kind of opening that up and releasing some of the ways that we stay divided.
Yeah.
One of them, the ability to love out loud and to be changed by that.
Now, what would you say to somebody that perhaps was like, well, Jesus is your homeboy, so Christianity must be your thing. But what about all the Buddhists? What about all these other practices? Are those just ways to divide us as well, in your opinion, or what's your take on that?
It's a little bit of I think there's more than one thing. It's always both. It's never just one thing or the other thing. I took years learning I was trying to find out what was loved once. Has anybody been loved by a bad person? You spend a lot of time when that's over trying to figure out if it was a bad person or if they really loved you. And you know what? It's both. They were a bad person that loved you. It's never, it's never just one thing. So what have I found when you come up to the fence line of your spiritual growth? Because my spiritual growth pressed on my own fence lines that Christianity had put up there. Raised in the Bible Belt of Oklahoma is where I'm from, and you're a Christian, and a lot of things that I accept spiritual wise is not accepted in Christianity even. So what I've done in my growing and what I've done is to completely release religion. I personally believe that religion has captivated a lot of people, because next to religion it says the word God somehow out in the universe. We think religion, the next thought is God. We think God, we automatically go to religion. It's like they're in this same wheelhouse. And I have a very strong opinion and a teaching that was given to me that, neither one of those belong together. To me, it's like a fire and smoke. They belong together. They don't really belong together. We use fire as a tool, and smoke is no good to me. It's just a toxic byproduct of what was originally there in the first place. So I believe that we have a fire that did come, has a name, it is love. And to me, again, that is Jesus. And that flame that he was. Religion to me is just the smoke. It's the toxic, confusing byproduct of what was here, and there was a fire here. And to me, that's just how the devil has to show up. Everywhere there's light and love, the devil's just got to show up and start being a part of things, even though he's really not needed. So we just need the fire. We don't need the smoke. And we get lost in that, where they say that smoke and mirrors. So to me, I think religion's out there because we're human beings. We have to physicalize things. We have to label things. And look at our society. We have to label everything we do. In fact, we're not feeling important enough. We've made more labels. So I'm not only a girl, I'm this type of girl. I'm only this type of girl. I'm just more and more labels to make myself unique and heard and validated. That's what's separating us. So, and to me, the first place I realized that I was separated from the oneness of God and the oneness of people is religion. Religion was dictating to me who to love and who to hate, who I could talk to, who I couldn't, who I can make friends with, who I can't. I started to realize that that's not the Jesus I know. Jesus I know would not sit there and tell me who I can. And this sounds like an abusive boyfriend. And I know Jesus is not an abusive boyfriend. He's not very controlling. He lets me talk. He lets me walk. And so I found a lot of world and religious truths that we've just accepted without questioning because it sits next to God. Why would you question God?
Yeah.
It didn't match to me personally. So the church that I founded is called the Porch again. And the reason being, we built this church without the laws of what is true. You have to have religion. No, you don't. And so we have a lot of people from different walks of life coming onto the porch to find unity and brotherhood and sisterhood in spiritual growth together and not leaving behind the name of Jesus Christ. And we don't have to shove it down your throat either. If Jesus wants you to call him Jesus, he'll work on that with you, right? Not right. So as a preacher, I also don't follow that code that a lot of preachers do, which is to force feed you, yell at you, and or disown you because you didn't buy the way I was teaching it. I think that needs to be changed. So,
but I do love your passion. You got that preacher passion about you, and I love that. It's not a demanding, it's more commanding your attention in a beautiful way.
Thank you. Thank you. I think I didn't answer part of your question was, what do you do with spirituality? What do you do with spirituality? What do you do with religion? Oh, you're like this, so you must be this. What about this? And I did a sermon one time called I'm an all paths kind of girl, all paths, because I'm a little bit of everything. Well, I have a little bit of, I can understand this religion, I can understand that. And when I started to find pieces of it all inside me, I really don't think that any person is wrong because of the religious lapel pin that they keep on their shoulder. They need that for them, and I don't. So I don't judge them or unlove them or hate them or contempt them because they come to me as a friend or the porch with a religious lapel pin. And so I'm not one of those preachers that think that you're wrong because you're of all these different religions. I would be a brother, sister, family to anyone from any religion because I am sovereign in spirit. I let the spirit own me, and nobody owns my mind, my heart, and how I work with those two in tandem. No one does that but me. So I'm not available for religion to molest who I am as a person, who I am as a content of character. So when people ask me nowadays, like, what is your religion? I answer them in a very new and novel way, but not so new and novel. I'm sovereign in spirit. You know, and that's all I need is Jesus Christ, come as you are. It's very simple. All I need is the Lord. So when you say something like that in a new way and you say I'm sovereign in spirit, it's just I'm untouchable. Not because I'm perfect and don't need to be rebuked, because I have such an intimate, powerful counselor-teacher relationship. It's been working quite well. And if it works for me and I'm just a layman, then I know that this same spirit's working with people in Amsterdam, working with people that aren't even of my language, but we're all speaking this love language. And there's this beautiful love correction of people that's going on all over the world. You can see the healing, even in fact of what the artwork of what you're doing. You can see the healing and the self-correction of people becoming better and better people every day. So a world of, humankind's turning into kind humans right before our very eyes.
That's beautiful.
Without religion, without that separator, we all get to come together.
Yeah. How do you see the walls breaking down on that separation though? Because it seems to me every day they, being the ones in control, are looking to find more and more ways to divide.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. That's the enemy. The enemy would always come by and look for more and more ways to divide us, to keep us separate, to keep us ignorant. When you keep your family, interrogating people, when, if you've done something bad and you go to be interrogated and say there's 4 of you, the first thing they're going to do for that power of getting to know, they're going to interrogate you, is separate you. There's power in separating, and the devil knows that a little bit. So how do you go about stopping what religion, what skin color, what we have done in the racial river? How do you stop all these ways of division? Sitting around a kumbaya hut with a guitar and singing "Let's All Get Along" has been done before. So I wonder how I'm going to do it. Martin Luther King died, on a balcony for this very push for how I want unity. I want unity. We can live together as one brotherhood, as one humankind. And how do you do it without doing it in vain? Even Christ himself laid down that life for freedom, for us to have spiritual freedom, for us to be a loving brother and sister. It's like the one thing we haven't figured out yet. So how do you do it? I think that if we don't do it, God's going to help us do it. Isn't that just like with our own personal lives? If we don't figure it out, I'm sure God's going to come in here and help us figure it out. And do we really want Dad to come down here?
Yeah. It probably won't be so good.
I think it's going to take one of two things. It takes love, open, vulnerable love, like what we're doing with our voices, open, vulnerable love, or it takes the other. And the other is fear and panic. Usually wars will cause this. I'm sure you can ask the Ukraine. How do you get into union? Do you wait and do it because it's a great thing to do and it causes a good feeling? Does your country get up every day and ring bells off its front porch to say, I am here from sea to shining sea, I'm one of thee? No, we don't. Do we get up every day and sing and play music off our balconies like we did when COVID came around? We had people stand out outside and talk to each other and sing music to each other just to uplift the world. It didn't last very long, and we didn't keep doing it. And so is love going to help us with the divide? As human beings, unfortunately, we're always a little bit stubborn and we work on pain. So I think that if you have a situation like, let's say, Ukraine, the whole country is going through pain. It's brought them together, made a brotherhood out of them. And if you ask any, let's go ask some veterans of any war from Vietnam, Iraq, you ask veterans in a brotherhood of veterans if they feel like family, if they feel like brothers, and yes, they do for the rest of their lives. But they probably only spent an 18-month time frame, a 6-month time frame, a 9-month time frame with each other when each one of them have different skin colors. That's something we argue about. They have different skin color, they have different religious backgrounds, different mamas, different states, different alumni. But you put all those men on a battlefield fighting for one thing, sovereignty and their lives. Then they become a family really quick when bullets are flying by. Nothing else matters. It's not like they stop doing what they're doing because of all those other things. Religion, skin color, if they believe that the world is flat or round, that there's not time for that there on that battlefield. And I wonder why human beings, we don't live our daily lives without the bullets flying around. Why can't we live in that type of brotherhood that we admire so much that our own military has?
Yeah.
Talk about mirror work.
Yeah, mirror work, and also comes to mind personal work. I mean, again, if you work and focus on yourself and get your house in order, then it just seems it naturally starts falling in place around you rather than trying to control this person. Work on your own shit, get happy with who you are as a person, and then you'll see that fall into place for other people. It's almost like, I want what she's got. How'd she do that? Oh, I'm going to do that.
How'd you take those handcuffs off, right?
Yeah.
How did you take off those golden handcuffs and become freer in the mind? And there's such a great awakening caused by a phenomenon where all cat's out of the bag. Everybody's talking about it now. So I'm not the only one carrying with me a spiritual awakening. You can see that in our face and our grace and so there's such a wonderful act of love coming from love. For love, by love, and through love. So it's easy to see that there is a sovereign, loving God that is, no matter what you call him, what religion. And it's kind of like no matter where you live or who you are at night, where you are, you can go outside and look at the moon. And so it's the same thing to me with the sovereign, loving God. There is a sovereign, loving God in each and every religion, no matter where you are in the world. If you look to your religion, I'm sure that there's a sovereign, loving God in there, regardless of its name. Just like if you look up in the night sky, your night sky, there's going to be a moon there. So we all have this same source of light that's teaching us. And I'm all about showing that off and making it not crazy. There's such a stigmata that's put on spirituality. Again, that, you wonder who did all this,
Yeah. Well, it's funny, you watch TV shows and they'll sit there and mock people about meditating or yoga or whatever. And it's like, hey, come on, because that shit works. So you're going to go attack it.
Right. Yeah, I keep it. Obviously, Jesus is obviously hanging off my sleeve and on my heart. And I don't hide that at all. But what I don't enjoy, and I experienced this myself in the last 7 years of my spiritual awakening. The last label I checked that I had was Christianity, or I'm a Christian, therefore, because I love Jesus. If that's my label, I'll walk forward with that. So I, being a Christian, let's, some of the things you're talking about, like yoga or the stars or burning sage, some of these simple things, eating hot dogs. I mean, I don't eating bacon. You can name it. There are trigger points that, again, where's that old voice telling me who to love, what to have for breakfast? What a dictator that this religion really is. And as I found myself growing and just telling my stories out loud, and that's what made me, or why it's preaching. It's not like I barely cracked the Bible. It's very funny what I call preaching versus what the world has shown you it to be so far. And anyway, I got the very first thing that it hit me was religion. So I'm over here growing and sharing intimate stories and trying to work on my bravery and my confidence and, being vulnerable and authentic for the fellow traveler, because anything else than that is just, not helping us.
Yeah.
So, when I started to talk out loud, the first thing I got were Bible verses from Christians. Oh, I'm labeled Christian. That must be meant they're my family. Okay. And what's funny is I'm growing out in the world, and the Christian family were the first ones that started shoving Bible verses down my throat so bad that they didn't even want me to speak, because in the Bible it says the girls can't be preachers. What is, let me, what? So I just, to me, I have grown outside the Bible. There are constraints. The world does have this religious rule book for you, religious truths. And if you go home with those religious truths and you hold them up to the light that you are learning from, you are emulating, it just doesn't hold water. Again, I don't know my Jesus to be a bigot. Yeah. I just don't know my personal Christ to be a bigot and tell girls to stay home and only go to bake sales at the church and be quiet. I think that's not working for some of us women, so I don't know what they're doing anymore. I just know that it left us disconnected and it wasn't working. And when I spiritually got awakened, nobody was showing us these kind of pages. Nobody was showing us that this existed, or that Christ could be this alive in our lives, could literally be giving us holy cliff notes, talking to us. This wasn't mentioned back home at the Bible school. So I just wanted to bridge that gap in what they're not saying and what really is here. And that's where you have fear. Everybody's afraid to get into spirituality. We used to get burnt to the stake or thrown in a jacket for what we're doing. And it's time to really break a lot of the defamation of character that spirituality has had on it for a long, long time. And I aim to do that too, just by living out loud, telling your truths, telling your story.
You said something that you wouldn't hear out of a normal preacher's mouth. You said Christ consciousness earlier.
Yeah.
Speak to that a little bit, because a lot of people that have very strong convictions for Jesus or Christ might have a problem understanding Christ consciousness. How would you go about explaining that?
They're kind of told to stay away from it a little bit, right? The book. I think they're afraid. I think they're really afraid. And so, how you go about explaining Christ consciousness? They actually, experience the same thing that spiritual people do. As far as Christ conscious, do you not say go home and talk to God? We tell people all the time to go home and talk to God. That's not weird. What's weird is when they come back and said, well, God told me. I heard from God that. Now, see, that's when we get uncomfortable. And Christ consciousness to me is for Christians, ask Jesus into your heart is no different. I mean, if you're saying they come alive inside of me, Christ consciousness is Jesus, God, however, whatever you're comfortable with. It's already in you, not outside you. And we've learned to kind of chant that back as a collective. It's inside you, not outside you, outside of you. And God's already talking inside of us all the time. I just think we were slightly not told what it was. God's inside of us all the time as our voice, and it's our voice. It's our conscience. We hear it all the time. Is a Christian going to tell me, or a Buddhist going to tell me, or a Catholic going to tell me that we don't have a conscience? We do. That very thing that talks to you. Even Dory in Finding Nemo, is that my conscience? So even a cartoon fish knows that we have an inner voice. And if you've ever quite listened to that, I would if I was talking to a Christian right now, do you have an inner voice? Well, they would say, yes, I do. I hear that a lot. But it sounds like you, doesn't it? Yourself talking. Yeah. And if you listen to your conscience, it's actually the parental house. Your conscience says a lot of things that are very parental. Go home, turn around, call your grandma, put that back, right? It's really, and when you get people of religion to go, okay, that's making sense. That makes sense what you're saying, Reverend Preacher. It makes sense. That's because our parent is inside of us telling us what to do. That is our conscience. Therefore, being conscious of having a conscience, follow me here, to be awake, that you actually are co-listening. You're co-listening. God's talking, you're listening. God's talking, you're listening. And to be strong enough, brave enough, courageous enough to listen. And I think as a society that believes in God, we've really lost our sovereignty, our personal freedom, our personal power in trusting ourselves. We've kind of subcontracted that trust out to religions and other people's opinions, because that's a religion too. A lot of people subscribe to what other people think about them and spend their lives serving that. So we've lost our personal power, that personal power that Jesus Christ gave us, that ability to trust ourselves, to listen to him and have him dwell in us was never too far from home in the first place. So you just don't need all that noise. Not when we have a Father so strong, you can go home and be taught directly through his hand, just like they did back then. He's still the same man as what I figured out. And we just don't need all that noise of the church. And if you let the cat get out of the bag, that kind of truth, that you can be powerful from home. You don't have to involve a preacher, pastor to break down that Bible for you. I am a lot of the things that I talk are not because I cracked the Bible open. It's because Jesus is talking to me. That takes precedence over what was written when Christ is talking. It doesn't devalue it. It just takes precedence over it when the Lord is talking. So do we, Christ consciousness, what is that? It's love inside you. It's love already talking. It's your teacher. It's your consciousness. And nobody's asking anybody to put down religion. It's bad. I'm not even saying it's bad. To me, it's a tool for those it's like for children. I give them a bottle. I give them milk. I give them a binky. We give babies certain things because it makes them feel good. They cling to that. We outgrow. We should keep growing into our own selves. So I don't need the security of my blankie or my binky or my teddy bear. I've grown to be secure in myself as an adult. I don't walk around with those kind of toddler things. So I think that in a way, religion is a growth tool. I think it's here for everyone, but I think that we grow out of that. And when you do, you grow into that sovereignty, that self-empowerment.
Now, what about, I heard something a while back and it somewhat resonated for me. Actually, it resonated very well for me. They talk about the return of Christ. And to me, it's the return, it's the bringing in of the Christ consciousness and integrating it into your your personal home here, your being.
Right, yeah.
That's the return of Christ to me. But there's people that are still waiting for this physical man to show back up on the planet. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've known, so I'll just speak personally from my own house. And know that everything I say is not trained off the world. I keep my head down. Everything that I believe or think is what I got because I took a walk with the Lord. We have a close relationship, and he talks just about as much as I do. So what have I gathered about it? I think that there's a little bit of both. Again, it's both. I think it's both. Why is that? Because, well, I've got a Bible book that tells me stories that I do believe. And I believe that there is a physicality representation for everything in the Bible. It was here. Some things we found and some things we haven't found yet. But I believe that I know heaven, and I know my dad, Holy Father, and Jesus to be of the type that they do ask, for physicality. Physicality does happen. They asked for a boat, they got one, So there are remnants left behind of the physicality of Christ. So do I believe that he's going to be coming back as a man? Yes. He left here as one. And I think that, yes, there's going to be some kind of physicality to that. Do I believe that he's also here spiritually? Yes, in a very, very profound way. It's so funny that we come up on a combination of Great Reset, the Great Awakening, the Great Tribulation, the end times. All I heard was great. A whole bunch of great stuff happening here soon. Or it's the Great Recession. It's the Great Depression. Sounds like something great is happening. So I believe it's both. I believe personally that Jesus, and it has, like you said, spiritually, he has shown himself to us. And there's a phenomenon around the world. Look at type in 11:11 phenomenon, type in synchronicity, type in a lot of things. And there's an explosion that happens on your computer because people are being called up. The Lord hearkens at your door with a near-death experience or a spiritual death, an ego death. He got your attention. We're actually, quote, dying to be alive in him. And that's what's truly happening to us. He's calling us all. And for the first time in my 38 years of going in and out of church and moving around the States, this is the first time in my living history that I can look out in the world and I cannot refuse the fact that there is a higher spiritual intelligence moving humanity. I cannot say that that's not, because it is happening for the first time in my generation. So I looked at that. That is the Spirit of God calling us, yes, moving us, ascending us, calling us into him, calling us up higher. And I believe that some of that's in the good book. So it looks like he's a man of his word yet again. And I think that's what's going to change us. I don't believe that we're so much waiting on God. I think God's been waiting on us. And, how do you let somebody know you're ready? Well, maybe you match them. We learned that in the spiritual community, that we match frequency. We want boyfriends and girlfriends or counterparts that match us in frequency. And I think that perhaps we should match the Lord in his frequency, or match God in his frequency. And how do you do that? With love. With love. And if you get the whole world just for 1 minute, for 1 day, for 1 hour to stand together and say, you know what, I'm not going to fight about anything. Just because I put my religion down doesn't mean it devalues it. It just makes it irrelevant at this hour, because to stand in unity, even for 1 day, 1 hour, I cannot be bringing these things along. So I would like for the world to understand that we ask you to put these things down that do not matter: the skin color, the religion, the where you come from. And the only thing that does matter is love. And we're all God's children under one blue sky. And it doesn't matter who you call God. God's a sovereign God. The moon has, the sky has the moon at night. All religions have a sovereign God. And so if we could just agree on these simple things that make us humans together, that make us one family together, I think that would be the first time that would happen in my generation as well. And what a great call, because the Lord is also having a call upon this generation. And if I could see that, then I wonder what we can do with the potential of that. Perhaps breaking down some of these walls and the constraints. I think history only repeats itself because we stay dumbasses and we don't learn from it.
Yeah.
And if we learn from it, we don't have to repeat it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you mentioned earlier that you have 3 kids.
I do.
What do they think about the front porch? Or a dirt preacher?
Well, they have watched me grow, and they watched the pain that I was in. I don't hide and filter anything from my kids. A little bit of a screen. They get to see what's going on in my life, and they too have followed in my footsteps. So they too have fallen in love with the Lord. They too are Christ conscious. They too come with a spiritual mantle. A spiritual mantle, and that's clairaudient, clairsentient, Claire. That's all the Claires that Christians are afraid of. Christians are very afraid of a girl named Claire. But this the spiritual mantle that we do get when we receive spirit and live in that power and be supernatural in a natural world. My kids definitely are learning that. They love it. It's a mysterious high of life that they have, and they're getting that straight from source, not from friends, not from things they shouldn't at their age. But they love the fact of they giggle about it, but they're proud of what I'm doing, a little bit profoundly proud of what I'm doing. I don't mean to, it feels weird to kind of toot your own horn a little bit. My kids, they're inspired by it. They talk their truths too, and they're not afraid to say Jesus' name. I think that's something that a lot of people are afraid to do. Jesus' name is somehow controversial and boring, and it's not that way here. So my kids are definitely living in power, and they show that off to their friends, and they love what the porch is, because they're getting older now. I have 14 and a 13-year-old who fully understand how important it is to sit together with other people and to love them, even though you don't have to agree with them. My kids are coming up, and my son's 13, and he said to me one time, just of recent, he said, Mom, it's not that the world's not broken. It's just the world just has broken people. And he's 13 years old, and I just, wow, what profound waters my son has. And so what they're learning is what the porch is trying to be, and what we should all try to be, and what Jesus tried to, was doing, was he was loving people without having to agree with them. And for some reason, as a human society, that's why we keep having more and more division. We have this code that says, I can't love you because I don't agree with you.
Yeah. Where the hell did that come from? Because, my parents
Exactly.
Growing up, my dad was Republican, my mom was a Democrat. They were married. They loved each other. They agreed to disagree,
Right.
But now, God forbid, you get a Democrat and a Republican together. It's like,
right. It's a house splitting event. Right.
It's like, why can't we agree to disagree? Why do we all have to be the same? Why can't we listen to each other without raising our voices and throwing out profanities,
Right.
What happened? Is that
who gave it that much power to? Political parties. And I'm a kid from the 80s and 90s, and when I was growing up, okay, people chose what they chose. It didn't have the power that it does today.
Yeah.
The political party has the power today to literally separate families right where they stand.
Well, now you cancel your friends because they're not,
right.
you don't support this. Oh, bye. It's like, what is that?
Very dangerous road that we're taking.
Yeah.
To start modeling our character constitution after that. So yeah, I'm all for disempowering those yardsticks, things like that, the political, we're not, and we'll get to the point where we're going to be too afraid to talk about politics no more or anymore. I guess it's a taboo subject. We were supposed to be bringing it up at the dinner table anyway. But you know what? The news does it. They bring it up all the time. It's all we ever talk about. It's all we're ever told about. And really, it's important, but it shouldn't be the yardstick and defining factor if rather we love or don't love our fellow Americans.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I don't know. I wonder if it's more of feeling the divide, which kind of leads me to your thoughts on how is Satan working his way into all of this? Because I see a lot. I mean, we could just look at the Balenciaga thing that just happened.
Right.
And
I believe Satan already was here.
oh
He
yeah,
already was.
yeah. But what I'm wondering is, we're winning the spiritual war.
Yes.
Things are heating up crazy. Balenciaga, I think, was a good example of that. And I don't mean to go to current events here, but that, to me, I'm starting to see so many people wake up from that.
Yes.
People going, did you know, did that, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my God, they've been ruining these children forever.
You know, and what woke everybody up to that, what brought that out is truth. Truth. When we live in a society that has these hidden Epsteins and Weinsteins and everything but the Bernsteins, when we see these things being uncovered.
Oops, you just hit mute, honey. There you go.
At its finest is telling the truth. And so here we are with a lot of people who have gotten courage through God to be truth talkers and truth sayers. And now we're having a real true army of truth, of what that is. And I think that's going to be the combating force on what it is that divides us all the time, is our own truths. We're going to set ourselves free as truth. Truth is what's going to set us free. So our society is becoming more and more and more of a truth talking society, a truth advocating society. And it's in a place where we're having space and grace for truth. And I think with that, as long as we have that, we have the ability to uncover rotten fruit, as you just stated, that plague our human table.
Yeah. So what is Satan to you?
Spirit. A spirit. I know that a mimicker. I know that Satan likes to mimic the Lord. And if the good book tells me that God is a spirit, it also says that God is love. And I deduce automatically that since we have the great mimicker here, and Satan can't do anything on his own, can't create, all he can do is manipulate what's already here, or take it away, omiss things. And to me, Satan is a spirit that mimics the spirit of God. He mimics spirituality. The great kill, steal, and destroy. And he is, to me, the voice of confusion in our society. And what is Satan to me? It's not that Satan is like this little green man that shows up in our bedrooms, at the foot of the bed between 3 and 4. Satan's way more than just don't do bad things. To me, it's a powerhouse of a narcissistic energy, a spiritual energy, an atmosphere of narcissism that we live among daily. And that narcissism shows up in the spirit of our politics, the spirit of religion, the spirit of division, the spirit of hate and contempt, and children killing children, and road rage, and mass shootings, and all the things that we are really birthing forward here is from this spirit that we live among. And to me, that overpowering, the oppression, the loneliness. We have 8 billion people in the world, but we're lonely. The disconnection, all of that to me is what the devil is. It's not just a one entity, a one person. It's an energy, and it surrounds us because he's mimicking God, because God is an energy that surrounds us everywhere we are as God. So that to me is what we're at, this spiritual waking up to a spiritual battle, so we can understand which one's for us and which one's against us. So that is to me what is Satan? The spirit of confusion, the spirit of mimicry.
Do you ever get a vision of how this all might end, how we can move on and start creating heaven on earth without all of this? Yeah.
Yes, I do personally. Yes, I do. I mean, if you're going to have visions, what a great thing to have a vision about. You know, I don't know what, I mean, I don't technically know what's going to happen to us. And, oh, yes, God comes. Look, I'm not going to sit here and do that. But do I have a vision? Do I have a plan? Yeah. Yeah, I hope I do. And I love what God taught me, and what code and creeds the Porch Church is sovereign. Being sovereign in spirit to me is so important, that everybody grows into their own time and space, but that they grow into their self-power that they have, that they grow into the powerful relationship that they have, that is between God and them. And that relationship is not for anyone else but you and God. And when people step into that kind of sovereignty, I believe that's when real power can happen. And I myself, the reason I say sovereignty, and it's so important, why you keep talking about sovereignty, emotional sovereignty is important. Otherwise, you're going to let people guilt trip you just for sleeping and taking naps and doing simple things, leaving the house, changing careers, you know. So we have to be emotionally sovereign. We learned that we don't really want to be owned by anybody else. We don't want anybody owning our voice, the way that we think, the way that we're manipulating, the way that we have to be true to one thing or the other, because if we don't, we're going to, all these systems that we have tied ourselves to, they've taken away this personal power. So to me, sovereignty is important. Our nation has sovereignty. Our soldiers protect sovereignty. Ukraine is up in arms because there's sovereignty. And we stand in solidarity for sovereignty all over the world. If we stand for Iran and the girls in Iran, the women in Iran, well, then we're standing for solidarity in sovereignty. We want them to be sovereign. And that's kind of a play on words a little bit. Sovereign means like, the, you know, to be the king, the ruler of, the absolute ruler of, but yet sovereign also is, you know, in our term is free. We're free. America is a sovereign land. We're free. And we have a sovereign God. So under a sovereign God, we built a sovereign land, and we have sovereign people. At least that's the way that we wanted the blueprint to work out. And sovereignty is so sacred, we would protect it with our own sons and daughters and our military. And we're not the only sands and beaches around the world that have done that. I think every country has turned their sands and seas red for the idea of sovereignty, something so sacred given to us by God himself. God gave us sovereignty, free will. And with that free will, you know, I believe that we're supposed to align that free will with his free will and go do goodwill. But I think if you unite, and that's what I'm hoping to do, I want to unite the world with the only golden thread that we do have in common, because we have so much to divide us. Perhaps the only thing left to unite us with is a golden thread of sovereignty, for we have that in common, do we not? And every country has sand. Every country has a coastline. Tell me it doesn't. We all share this water together. Now that sand's something profound in a lot of different ways. So when you kind of, if you look out there in the world and you say, your sand is like mine, it's nothing but a bunch of rocks that have been through the shake of time. Your sand is like mine. It too was red once, for the sake of sovereignty, for sovereignty's sake, for freedom's sake. And if we understand that as a global nation, sovereignty is something it's a golden thread. It unites everybody. And if they don't have sovereignty, we want them to have it. Ukraine, we're waving flags from here because we're standing with you. We want you to have that sovereignty. We want you to be free. And so does the Lord. That's why he had Jesus come to us. And that sacred sovereignty is something that we can use to unite ourselves with, and realize with that, we're already equal. All of us are equal and united. And so to me, it gives me hope that there's a chance to still unite the world. If you would love to try with unity to unite us under what? Sovereignty. We unite every single day underneath the big blue sky. Nobody's fighting about that. The sky is not big enough for us. And as me personally, I would like to see my family from here. I know a lot of people that have taken this spiritual journey or have been woke up, you know, I would say awakened. There's a difference in the terms there. But for those who are conscious and Christ conscious, they probably have lost a lot of friends, jobs, and family members. You get debrided of a lot when you walk this path, because that's just there's a lot of learning, and that's a whole nother show. But
yeah, right.
people know that they lose a lot. So when they come through, where's my family at? Where are my friends at? And I know that's something I'm still chanting to this day, is where are my soul tribe? Where's my like kind? Where are my golden hearts like me? Now, I don't have to believe like you, and you don't have to have, religious lapel pins like me. But we can love together. We can choose to do that. And where's my family at? I don't know where my family is. And once again, I found the same problem. I went out looking for my family in the world, and they're like, oh, you're spiritual. Oh, you're pagan. Get away from me. But I thought I was Christian. I love Jesus. So I go to the Christian crowd and I want to be hanging out with them, but they see that I'm spiritual and I burn sage and I talk about chakras. That can't be right. So they kick me out and I go hang out with the Buddhists, but I'm too different. It's everywhere I went, I found I didn't have a home. I don't like this homeless feeling I have. Rather be in your real life, but it's also spiritually going on in the world too. We're spiritually homeless. And if you don't go around church shopping and just kind of pick one that's near you, that's like shopping for clothes that almost fit you. Not quite, but sort of, kind of, because I got it at Dillard's. That's not how we dress. That's not how I'm going to walk love out in my life, to be an embodiment, a showcase of what love's doing to me. And so I just think sovereignty is, we could start from there. Not from fighting. Change the conversation to what we have in common, what we don't, and nothing else matters. All that stuff, the word shit we've been talking about, is the racial river and the politicals and all that. Okay, that's great. You know what we have in common? Sovereignty. Meet me there at noon, because once you agree to stand in sovereignty together, you have a solidarity event. You ever been to a solidarity event? Everybody loves everybody, and it don't matter skin color. They're almost having church out there, standing in solidarity for their fellow man. And when you see that solidarity brings unity, unity begets love. Love is standing right next to God. It's not God standing next to religion. God is standing next to love, and love is standing next to God. That's why God is love and love is God, and that's in the good book. Not God is religion. So I just see that when you do God's map and you walk backwards from God to love to unity, how did I get here? I started out talking about sovereignty, but it got me to church. It got me to my holy family. It got me to a one big family sitting down here talking about sovereignty. And so I think that's one way that we can go about this without causing a war.
Girl, I love it. You're a spitfire.
Thank you.
Truth. How can folks find you? I'll post information on how they can connect with you below, but also why don't you let everybody know where they can find you, when, and what's going on with you?
Pardon me. I show up on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, you name it, I'm out there. Just always tell people to headhunt Red Dirt Preacher. And my name is Lanie Quinlan. And the church that we have is called the Porch, and it's a one foundational church, and it's a sovereign in the spirit kind of church. And boy, that's family for you. So the church is called the Porch. The porch belongs to you and me. Even you have a porch. I have a porch. The guy in Papua New Guinea has a porch. The lady across, everyone has a porch. They're conveniently located outside of every home. So when you're looking for a universal church, that's funny. There's one that exists, and I didn't have to build it. It's called the Porch. We all have one, So the Porch is what it's called, and Red Dirt Preacher is the name, and the church is all of us, all the time, being that light into the world, plain and simple.
So I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I love opportunities to run my mouth.
I love your spirit, girl. So
Thank
I
you so
appreciate
much.
you and everybody else. We will see you later, and go look for the Red Dirt Preacher.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.